On this week's episode of the Engaging Marketeer, I'm speaking with Scott Walker, who worked in the legal profession and now works for the legal profession, helping lawyers and solicitors become more confident and better speakers. Why would solicitors need more confidence? Well, let's find out from Scott how he does that, how he markets his business, and the kind of people that he helps. You describe yourself as an introverted lawyer. What exactly is an introverted lawyer?
Well, that's a great question to start with. I had a long journey with this, actually. And it's funny you should mention it because I did a TEDx talk last November on this very topic. So why the world needs introverted lawyers. And so an introverted lawyer is somebody who recognizes their unique strengths, if you like, as an introvert. So for me, I kind of realized that I was able to help clients more easily and in a better way by listening, by tapping into some of those natural abilities, if you like, of an introvert. So certainly the listening side, certainly the empathy side. Actually, I think there is. I mean, I know that everybody, whether introverted or extroverted, are perfectly able and capable of being empathetic. But I think from my experience, I've actually learnt, well, that's kind of there to a degree naturally, for the want of a better word. And I was just able to tap into it more because I understood it a bit better and what that actually meant. So that's probably a long-winded answer.
Well, what I was going to ask, what's the fundamental distinction between an introvert and an extrovert? The reason I ask is, as I understand it, an introvert gets energy and power from within, whereas an extrovert gets energy and power from other people. Now, I've taken tests along this line before, and I did one. I forget the name of it. It was with a wheel, and it tests your assertiveness, your confidence, your various different things. And my empathy came out as 1%. And I've always thought of myself as an extrovert because I like to be on a stage. I like to be in front of other people. I do get more energy when I perform in front of other people, hence running this podcast. But I also really like to be alone. And I don't like to be in situations where I have to make small talk with people. I hate one-to-ones. No offense from this podcast. But I hate talking to people on a one-to-one level because you've really got to concentrate and listen. I find it very taxing. So what exactly is the difference?
It is very much about energy. And I think typically that's where the definitions lie. So introverts will get their energy from having quiet time, from being alone, and having less time with people. So we still need lots of some connection, I should say.
Because it's a human instinct, isn't it, to want to connect with others?
Absolutely. But I think so again, from my experience as an introvert, it's more on the one-to-one side. So the energy definition is absolutely spot on, and as you were saying, extroverts is the reverse. So they are getting their energy from being with people. They like lots of connection. There is a scale. So you may know this. I don't think any of us will sit neatly at the end of each spectrum. So you couldn't be a pure introvert, for the want of a better word. You will sit somewhere along that scale, and we have other terminology that's been developed over the years. So an ambivert is somebody who has a mixture of both, and then we have other terms for people who can switch between the two. So it's always adapting and evolving, and it does depend on our environment, what we're doing, the people we are with. But I've kind of realised that just from the experiences I've had, from both a personal perspective and a professional perspective, but particularly in a professional perspective, what else that means, what does what it means to be an introvert in the working world. And that's where you kind of pick up on perhaps some of these natural strengths I speak a little bit about. But really, that's more about self-awareness. But it's connected to who we are and how we like to show up, what our personality style is.
Because there'll be a lot of people who are introverts, maybe a lot younger, maybe teenagers, maybe even younger than that, who will think that I'm never going to be able to go to a business meeting and stand up and talk in front of people. I'm never going to be able to give a presentation. I remember being at university, one of the things we had to do was to give a presentation in front of the whole year. And some of us, like myself, threw ourselves into it, whereas others were so nervous about it. Some of them didn't even turn up and they avoided it. And I think the question I'm getting to is that some really famous performers, like Michael Jackson, for example, I mentioned that because I'm going to see the film today with my daughter. Michael Jackson was an introvert, even though he would perform on stage in front of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. How can introverts get over being introverted to do a performance like that, such as yourself when you delivered the TEDx? If you're an introvert standing up in front of people with cameras and an audience, and then once that clock starts and you hit that red spot, you can't do a do-over. You can't go back and start it again. All the pressure's on you. How are you able to do that?
I think there's a couple of things, and yeah, I find this so interesting because you're right as well. There are so many great speakers who are introverted, and lots of people documented throughout history and currently. So for me, it's one has been about acceptance, connected with the self-awareness piece. So really understanding exactly what introversion means for me as a person, because it would be different for everybody, and then accepting that. And because I always thought, I'm particularly coming from the legal profession, I had to be somebody else. I had to be performing. I masked a lot and still do to some extent. But I think that was because of what the profession and what society were perhaps expecting, or they saw, particularly the legal profession, as a very extroverted profession. So it wasn't until I'd thought, well, actually, okay, I'm just going to accept who I am. This is who I am. And it doesn't matter because we are so different. So that helped. That was almost like a bit of an epiphany, because I felt, well, if I could take away perhaps what was expected, I could just show up and do some of the things that I didn't expect I could do myself. So public speaking and training, lecturing, I do as well. So that's one of them. The other one is preparation. I think as introverts, we are quite detail orientated, or some of us will be, which means that we like to prepare, and that helps so much when it comes to public speaking.
Right.
Again, we will be different. Everybody will be different, because some people will prefer to be speaking naturally and off the cuff, but that preparation piece does help to relieve the nerves a little bit, and at least it gives you a starting point.
So because you're able to prepare so much, that gives you the control, which fits into the introverted personality, that even though I'm stood up in front of people and I'm talking and anything could happen, chances are it won't, because you've prepared so much, you know exactly what you're going to say and how the talk is going to go.
Absolutely. Control's a great way, actually, of saying it. It is having that, and having that cushion, I think, and that ability to, just have something in the back of your mind, so you've got an answer if you get stuck. It doesn't always work like that. No. I think, again, from my experience, I am actually, in some instances, quite good at not preparing and just speaking off the cuff. So it does depend on the subject matter, and actually whether you're talking about something you're passionate about.
That always helps, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
So you're a public speaker as well. You're a professional speaker. So is that something that came before the TEDx talk?
It's started before then. Yeah, very much so. It started actually through me lecturing. So I became a visiting lecturer for a university, and yeah, that led to more training and speaking, which eventually led to the TEDx.
And what was the application process like for the TEDx? Because I've done one myself, and I didn't get in the first time I applied. I had to apply a second time because the theme didn't fit. But it's quite rigorous in how you deliver a talk, and some of the TEDx's in particular can be very, very specific on making sure you say every word. They want to know what you're going to say. So what was your experience like?
I class myself quite lucky because I had the advantage, if you like, of the TEDx event was organised by the University of Law, which is who I lecture for.
All right.
So they did approach me, but we did have, so there was an application stage. So we had an initial interview. So you talk through potential subjects, and there were some kind of standard questions they would go through, and then it went to the committee. But I only had one to the initial interview, and then there was a selection committee who made the decisions on the speakers. But then, after being accepted, they did need to see the script, so we would be submitting our outlines, a full script closer to the event, and then there was rehearsals and actually lots of support in between. So I think one of the good, again from my experience, one of the good things is that the support was there if you needed it, so you could talk things through, or if you wanted to get a little bit of feedback, it was there and available. So not quite as rigorous as some I know, and some you've probably experienced, but yeah, as I say, I was a little bit lucky.
To be fair, the one I did was through Chester University, so I think the ones that go through academia seem to be easier because, as you say, a lot of them, they approach people within the academia to take part in it. So they'll approach professors, they'll approach alumni students. So when I did mine, one of the professors went first, and he didn't want to do it. But he was being made to do it by the university. And although you're not supposed to go up there with notes, he went up there and read the whole thing off because he said, well, if I'm going to be made to do it, I'm going to do it how I want to do it. And he went first, he read it, and then he was off. He was gone, which was a very strange experience, totally, to be doing that. How have you found doing a TEDx has helped you in your professional speaking? Has it been something that you've been able to trade off on?
It has absolutely helped me from a learning perspective and getting better at public speaking. I just think the whole experience was, I find it quite difficult to put into words because it was a goal of mine. So to actually doing it was great, but the whole process was challenging. It made me think a lot about speaking, communicating, but it gave me the prompt, if you like, to seek some help. So I did get some help in preparing the TEDx talk, which I'm so happy I did, because that helped me to understand professional speaking a bit more. It helped me to get my ideas into a talk which would make sense and hopefully have some impact. So I think as a learning experience, it's been amazing, and I use the skills that I've developed from it ever since. And I'm not, as with anything, we're constantly learning and adapting and trying new things, trying new material. So it will be a forever process. But
so it is something you would recommend for anyone else that's looking to be a public speaker, professional speaker, that doing a TEDx is definitely something that's worth it for them.
100%, I would, recommend it so much, because I as I say, I just think going through that process and the whole experience, it's worth it. It as I say, it is a challenge, as you will know, but it is very rewarding, I would say.
And how pleased were you with how the talk went in the end?
I was so on the day. I was pleased. I just remember feeling like I delivered it the best. So in terms of my rehearsals and my practice, it was I delivered it on the day much better than I did in any of the practice and rehearsals. So that felt okay. I haven't watched it back yet. I will at some point.
You've really not watched it back?
I haven't.
Wow.
I know it's. Well, I probably watched the first few minutes, because I got to about 3 minutes in. But I'm not sure why. I think I've just been finding the right moment to pluck up the courage to watch it, or because I know I need to, so I can see what I'm doing.
Yeah, you need to be reviewing your talk and criticizing yourself and seeing what you could have done differently. What would you change? I've watched mine back so many times. I've even. Do you get the professional photographs from it as well?
Yes, they did. They did some for us, so that was really, really helpful. And then I had some footage as well from a few supporters in the crowd, so they helped with some photos and footage as well for me.
I've got mine on the back of a business card.
Ah, excellent! That's a great idea.
With a QR code that you can click on, or you can scan to go straight to the video to watch the TEDx talk.
Brilliant.
It's important that people watch it. You got to get it out there. You got to get it out there. In terms of your public speaking now, then your professional speaking, what sort of gigs do you do, and how do you get the work?
A lot of the work I do at the moment it's actually virtual.
Oh,
funnily enough.
Okay.
Yeah, I've certainly found in the legal space there's a lot of demand for virtual training, virtual speaking. There is a mix, but I think it's not gone back to previous levels and what it used to. So a lot of it is virtual. I do a lot of work a bit like associate work, so for well-known providers, organisations within the area of law I specialise in, and so that's been a great way of being visible, actually, partly for people to get to know me, to get the work I do, but also it's a great way of helping out their audiences and delivering training for them. So I do that quite a bit, but also through LinkedIn. I've found LinkedIn to be a huge part of my marketing strategy since I became self-employed. And I suspect I'm only probably scratching the surface of what it can actually do, but I do find that people see you and they recommend you, or they approach you directly. So I've had a lot of opportunities through LinkedIn.
Well, of course, LinkedIn will only work if you're making it work and you're using it and you're posting on it. So what sort of stuff do you do that gets you seen as the expert in your industry?
I have, I've been on a bit of a journey with LinkedIn. I try lots of different things. So I think for me, what's really helped is sharing my story. it's been being honest as well about my experiences within the legal profession. So I have started to talk a lot more about well-being in the legal profession, about some of the challenges that the profession faces, and I think that's helped. It's helped people to perhaps trust me, I guess, and see somebody who is willing to have those types of conversations. I think that has increased since I first started doing it. So I first started self-employment back in 2022, and even within this short space of time, there's been so many lawyers posting now. It's just fantastic to see, because we are beginning to have, more interesting and important conversations. So yeah, that's really helped. And then just sharing what I'm doing as well. I think there's a lot to be said about social proof, and telling people what your week looks like, the things that you've been doing, and even if it's just a quick, I'm going to this event. It's just showing that you're out and about and doing stuff.
Keeping yourself in people's minds.
Absolutely.
So do you have a fixed strategy for what you do on LinkedIn, or are you just posting as and when you think there's something that's worth sharing?
I used to. So I have to probably say I have done quite a bit of training in LinkedIn. So I've learned some of the tricks, if you like. But I used to have a strategy, because I used to connect my content with webinars. So I used to do a lot of webinars.
All right.
Which were that kind of visibility piece, and
what
showcasing.
What platform did you use for webinars?
So I used to do them, and still do when I go back to it. Zoom.
On Zoom. Okay.
So I've always used
Zoom
Zoom.
webinar.
Yeah.
Right. So you were posting on LinkedIn, and you were referencing the webinar. So when the webinar was, what time it was, and how people could sign up.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. So I used to use LinkedIn events as a way of marketing it, and but it was connected to my content, so that I would then have a kind of strategy for the lead up to the webinar. So I'd be posting, some educational content about what I was doing, what the webinar was going to be about, and then showing that I was doing it, and then. So between that would then come the kind of the personal posts, the journey posts, the connection posts, if you like. I call them. So it was still a mixture, but it was a bit more focused, because I had something I was doing around it. So it was a good way of planning. So I did notice, doing that, it was easier to have a content strategy, because you could pick particular types of content you could do.
Yeah. So what types of content were you doing? I'm quite interested in how you were promoting the webinar, you see. So what sort of content were you doing? Is it a mixture of a mixture of video and images and tech stuff?
Yeah, so most of the content that I do, and still do actually, was written and normally with a picture. So I tended to focus on text and picture posts. I have done video in the past, which does work quite well. The good thing about the webinars was that it would give you some video content, so you could repurpose it and then post that.
Excellent. Yeah.
You could put your links on to your YouTube channel. So that helped with the video side, but most of mine has actually been text and picture.
Text and images. Is that the only thing you were doing to promote the webinars? Was just LinkedIn?
It was, it was the main source. I had so some of it would come through my email list, which was very small at the time. But then I would promote it through people I know. So anybody within my network who was willing to share and just spread the word. I think I used Facebook at the time as well.
So paid or organic?
Just organic.
Just organic. Okay. And how many people were you getting on each webinar, and how regularly were you doing them?
So they were. So the idea was to be monthly. I did only do them. I didn't give it long enough, in all honesty. The consistency is, as I've learned since, it seems to be so important. I guess it depends on your kind of business model and what else you're doing, but monthly was the plan. I think I managed to do 6 months in total, but if it had carried on, I think the consistency would have then led to higher numbers. But I think I was getting, considering this was all organic, I think I was between 30 and 40 people.
All right.
And then, I mean, it did vary throughout that 6 month period. And then, of course, you get people dropping off. So.
Of course, yeah. So on the webinars then, were you signing them up for a consultation call afterwards, or were you selling a service straight from the webinar?
Yeah, so I did consultation calls as my call to action. So yeah, having a strategy call, as I would, I framed them. So I think at the time that was slightly easier for what I was selling. So that was mainly legal services, essentially. So it was, for what I do, it's important to kind of understand a bit about the client's background. So it was just a little bit more easier to have the consultation call, so I could get to know the clients a bit more. They could ask questions of me. But I know, selling directly from webinars can be really useful as well.
Can be.
But that's a skill in itself.
Yeah, definitely. So if you were selling legal services, was that wasn't aimed at the legal profession then, which is your target now? That was aimed at businesses or individuals?
It was, yeah, businesses and individuals. Yeah, that was before the pivot into full-time training and speaking.
So what made you stop the webinars then? What made you say, I've had enough of this?
If I'm being honest, it was a lot of work.
Yeah, they are, aren't they?
Absolutely.
They're a commitment, aren't they?
Yeah, that's a great way of saying it. It's a huge undertaking. And to get people to come to the webinars, because you would see a spike in the beginning because it was something new.
Yeah.
People may not have seen it before. But to maintain that was difficult. There's a lot of outreach, a lot of messaging, and yeah, I kind of struggle with that, in all honesty. But I think as well, I was doing that around the time I knew I wanted to move away from client work. So I think that was in there as well. But the funny thing was they worked.
Yeah.
It was a great way of meeting people, of getting some interest, of nurturing clients, getting people in your world. So I did see the benefits of doing them, absolutely. But as I say, I think it was a mixture of changing what I was doing and perhaps realizing, there's a lot of work here, but with the AI tools we have now, some of that can potentially be taken away.
That's true. We used to do webinars. I think it was either monthly or every 6 weeks, and I was the one doing them, and I absolutely hated them. Hated doing them. And they were always done either 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock at night. So you'd finish either 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. And I despise doing it. They worked. We sold from it. But it's the whole performing to nobody there. It drains your energy. It's really energy sapping. And afterwards, you get this big come down. It's like, oh, I can't do anything. I'm so tired. I don't want to speak to anyone. I don't want to do anything at all. And the next morning, it's like, it's like you'd had a heavy night, but all you were doing was a webinar. And if you're doing it and the sun's shining, it's beautiful weather, the people that are going to get a really low show-up rate today because the sun's out. They're going to be outside in the beer gardens, aren't they? They just despised it. Much rather be in front of real people. Get that connection. So now that you're targeting, obviously, law firms and you're targeting lawyers, have you not thought maybe I could go back to webinars and target them again and start that up?
Interesting you should say that. Yeah, so it is something I've been looking at quite recently. In fact, only earlier this month. Yeah. Because I realised that, legal professionals love a webinar.
Love a webinar, yeah.
So it kind of felt quite a natural fit. But I'm just kind of getting my head around
particularly
how it will work.
If you can wangle it so they can get CPD points for it, then they'll really love a webinar.
Absolutely. That's the idea.
Yeah. So they're learning, sort of, while they're being sold to. That's the way to do it. Have you got a way that you could target law firms, or would you do that through LinkedIn again?
Yeah, absolutely. Through LinkedIn, because as I say, it's just been amazing for me, made a huge difference to my business, but also joint partnerships and relationships with other organisations. So the associate training work I do, they, I have something which would, hopefully be great for their audiences. It is educational as well. So as you were saying, they do get the CPD. So it's an opportunity to say, well, I could provide this to your audience as long as you don't mind me just doing the pitch at the end. So yeah, I think there seems to be, again, from what I've been learning, power in having those kind of joint partnerships, if you like, and using other people's audiences.
So have you done any at the moment then? So not webinars. Have you done any live talks that are aimed at specifically different lawyers with the view to selling to them?
No. So that's kind of still kind of under development, shall we say?
That's coming. That's coming.
It's coming. It's coming. Hopefully, it's coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I say, a lot of the training work I do is very much virtual based and webinar based. So that lawyers do seem to quite like that.
If it's training, then they've got to do that anyway, haven't they? They've got to do it anyway. Because the reason I ask questions like that, I mean, we've got a lot of solicitors that are clients. So we work with a lot of solicitors. We've not targeted the law industry. We just seem to have picked them up. And I would love to do talks in front of solicitors to talk to them about marketing, talk to them about growing their business. But you cannot get in with the Law Society unless you are, what they call it, a sponsor or an advocate or whatever it is of the Law Society. And that's really expensive. And there's people who do that and they then sell to solicitors. And I don't want to cast any shade here, but lawyers get ripped off. Most people never feel sorry for lawyers, but I'm starting to really feel sorry for lawyers because we had a solicitor recently who sent us a quote she'd had for a website. I won't say who it was because I can't breach confidentiality on that, but she'd had a quote for a website and it was a very, very basic brochure website, but the quote was between £17,000 and £25,000. I thought, surely there's some sort of functionality in there which is specific to your business. Maybe there's some sort of document uploading and version control, and it's all kept on a secure server and monitored and then maybe deleted after a period of time for GDPR. No. It's just a simple brochure website between £17,000 and £24,000. Now, we do a website like that for 99 quid a month, and it was so basic. The cheapest website this company was offering was £6,500, £7,000, and that was a template. So you could not have a design specific, just a template, just change the colour and the logo. And then they charge another 120 quid a month for the hosting. Those are the kind of people that are targeting solicitors. So I really feel sorry for lawyers right now, because you guys are totally getting ripped off on all of this, and I don't understand why. So I just want to go in and help you guys. It's just madness. I don't know whether you've seen any of that in your time.
You know what? Yes, I do, and I have. I think it's such a great point, and you're spot on about the Law Society. It is all about the sponsorship and
how much people pay.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and it's not always the right providers.
No,
Which is the frustrating thing. But yeah, no, I've seen that. It sounds quite challenging.
it's disgraceful. It's disgraceful.
Yeah, it is.
But it's not just solicitors, though. It's the same with other industries. We've seen it with accountants as well, because we've done a lot of work for accountants, and they get ripped off as well. There's this one company that provides websites to accountants all over the country, and they specialize in they say they specialize in accountants. So they all look the same. They even provide all the content to the accountants, which is identical pieces of content on every accountant's website, which means they're all duplicate, which means Google doesn't like to see it. So it's not just solicitors. Companies that specialize in these particular industries are ripping those businesses off, because they're paying to be the sole provider or the recommended provider, which means the individual companies are paying a premium because they're paying this body to have that access to it. And it's just something wrong with the whole marketing economy where that is the case. It just really annoys me. But you're helping. You're out there to help them, though. You're out there to help them get better.
Yes. Hopefully, I think lawyers have certainly struggled with marketing, and they still do.
Because they have a bad rep, lawyers. Don't they? Have a bad rep.
They do, absolutely. I have certainly seen this over the years. And in fact, it's one of the things I was talking about in the TEDx talk, ironically. This whole perception of lawyers in terms of how the public see them. And so it's quite nice to hear you say you feel sorry for lawyers. Because usually it's the other way around.
I know,
it's the lawyers.
I don't say it often, but then this time I really felt sorry for the lawyers. So one of the things you do, you help solicitors build their confidence. Well, firstly, I would have thought, do solicitors really need their confidence building? Because, I was always told in school I should be a solicitor, pretty much because I liked arguing. And I can win an argument from a lot of different angles. So if you're going to be a solicitor, obviously a barrister is very different from a solicitor, then you are typically used to having, what's the word, confrontations. Whether it's verbal or written, you're used to having confrontations with people and winning something over, which means you need a certain level of confidence anyway to be able to do that. So how are you helping solicitors build confidence, and do they need it in the first place?
So where that comes from, it's the gap. So what we tend to find, and again, kind of speaking from my own experiences here, but what you tend to find is law school is great for teaching you the law and the theory and some of the skills. So you will start to develop as you go through law school, although of course it's all changed now. We have a completely different route to qualification, but that does still include some skill element. So you start to kind of learn a little bit about advocacy, and so you're gaining a bit of experience in speaking and actually if you're going down that route, public speaking. And then of course you do all your theory work, and you might start to develop your kind of researching skills and written communication skills. But there's always been that gap between what happens in university and law school and what happens in legal practice in reality. And a lot of it is about the really client skills. but it's also about people generally. So, getting on with people, getting on with your colleagues. It's understanding your colleagues as well, and how they work. And then it's understanding your clients and getting to know them and understanding their challenges. So I think the confidence thing is very much in that skills based arena. So it's probably a better way of saying it is it's improving our confidence, because I think you're right, the confidence is still there, but it's bridging that gap. But then, of course, you've got the technicalities. So depending on the area of law you do, so with what I do, which is wills, probate, tax and trust, it's a very technical area. So you will, particularly in your early days in your career, you will have some exposure to that. But as certainly my trainee days, a lot of my time was spent helping out with perhaps some of the mundane tasks, dare I say. So your real life experience is very limited. So I think that's where the confidence building comes in. It's increasing the technical aspects, and which is difficult sometimes to achieve in practice because everybody's so busy, and doesn't mean that there isn't an open door policy, but it's just the realities of working in law. And when we speak about how pressurized it is and how demanding working in the legal profession is, I don't see it that way, incidentally, but that's just what people talk about. But it does limit what you can then build in terms of skills, confidence, whatever it is. But it's, for me as well, it's kind of connected to the introversion extroversion piece. It's going back to that understanding of ourselves and then understanding people and how we like to be communicated with. So that is something I'm drawing upon in the training I do, because I actually think that's kind of the missing piece within some aspects of our profession. It's understanding personality, understanding energy levels, and how that's different for everybody depending on whether we are introverted or extroverted.
That comes quite heavily then into sales training, doesn't it? Because one of the things that sales trainers will cover is the understanding that the person the potential client you're speaking to will have a different way they like to be communicated with. So some people like all of the detail. Some people just like the headline or the cliff notes. Some people prefer to be communicated with in writing. Some people prefer it in voice note or in phone call because maybe they're dyslexic or they just don't have the attention to read. So understanding what somebody wants is a sales technique. So you're saying that's something that you're teaching solicitors so that they can better understand their clients, to serve them better, and also to make sure they represent them.
It is, yeah, absolutely. Because I just think, again, from my experiences, it's not something that you are taught. It isn't something that we talk about explicitly. So I kind of made that connection. It was when I got into speaking about introversion and the journey that led me to do the TEDx talk, when I realised, well, actually, all this applies to the workplace and what we do as lawyers. And I do that training using DISC, which you may know, some of the listeners may know, the personality profiling tool, talking a little bit about that earlier.
Yeah.
But I do it through the lens of DISC, but mine is very much centered around introversion and extroversion, because again, it's from my kind of lived experience, if you like.
1% empathy, 1%. which I think makes me borderline sociopath, but I think that's fine. And I imagine as well, in the area that you're in, as you said, wills, trusts, tax and probate, there's going to be a lot of introverted people. that are very focused on the technical aspect of the job, because it's an area where you can't make a mistake. Because if you did make a mistake, you could massively impact somebody's estate after they've passed, and there would be a whole world of pain and arguments going on about what you've done. So the kind of people that you're going to be helping, I would presume, are probably quite introverted to start with.
I think they are, yeah, absolutely. Again, it's such a great point. There are lots of lawyers, I would imagine, who are introverted, and I hadn't made that connection until recently. Strangely enough, I hadn't appreciated how many lawyers were probably introverted, but particularly those who work in the private client law spectrum, which is so wills and probate, what I do, but things like property law, employment law, family law, and criminal law as well, to an extent, because it is all about detail, and it's very much about people. But
and contract law, I imagine, as well, would be even worse.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, detail orientated all the way for contract law.
So how easy do you find solicitors to help then? If you've got people that are very introverted and they're very focused on the detail, and you're trying to help them to essentially teach them soft skills so they can communicate better, how receptive do you find them to that?
It
varies.
It does. It's such an interesting question, and I often draw upon experiences of training here, because you see it when you are delivering training, so you can almost tell the people who are perhaps a little bit more happy to share is probably the right word. So they like to be able to help the group and engage with the training, and those like me who are more introverted will, they like to listen, and that's partly how they like to learn. It is listening, absorbing, and watching. So you can kind of pick up on some kind of aspects of a person's personality just through that, and again, my experiences from training.
So what kind of I gotta say, obviously your specialties are in a particular area, but are you able to help solicitors in any capacity who work in any area?
Yeah, pretty much. I have concentrated on private client law, so the areas I mentioned a moment ago. Again, just because that's from my experience, but I do think whatever area of law you're in, it is, for me, I just see that whole personality awareness piece, being centered to the workings of a law firm, but also how it's connected with well-being and mental health. The so much. I mean, we talk about it a lot more nowadays, which is great, and we speak. As with any sector, of course, there are going to be lots of well-being and mental health challenges, but I think in law it is a particular issue. So that's all connected. So whatever area of law you do, then if you can understand yourself a bit more, understand your colleagues, your clients, I think that does bridge a gap.
And one question I was thinking of as you said that as well, I'm going to use the phrase "teach old dogs new tricks." Are you predominantly working with sort of younger solicitors, or will you get the heads of the firm, the senior partners, as well involved with it, or are they just too far gone to be able to come up with these new fancy ideas of listening to what your client wants?
Gosh, yeah, that's another great point. So for me, I've realised that it does start perhaps with the senior lawyers and the leaders and the managers, because that's a great way of actually a great way of making change and changing perhaps how we used to work. So I think again, from my own experiences, a lot of the firms I've worked for are quite traditional. So it is about changing practices to working practices to some degree. So, and I think that does start with senior people, but that they will probably experience the stress more than perhaps the junior lawyers and those who have less post-qualification experience, because their expectations are probably a little bit different because they're from another generation. So I think there's that. But so yeah, I just think we all, well, whatever we do in the law, we are always on the go, constantly busy. There are so many different demands on our time that hopefully the senior people and leaders can perhaps relate to that, and then are hopefully a little bit more open to exploring how we might overcome some of those challenges.
And I mean, we're almost out of time, would you believe? What's the future hold for what you want to do? Because you said you stopped doing the webinars. You might start doing them again. You're looking at new ways to target lawyers. What have you got planned in the next few months?
Gosh, yes, that's another great question. I'm really focusing at the moment on how I can help and support the people that need it most. So the lawyers and the firms that really need perhaps a different approach to working within the profession. So a lot of what I'm probably going to be doing in the next couple of months actually is working out how I can deliver that best. How can I reach these people? How can I help them to think a little bit differently? And yeah, so that's very much the plan. I was going to say as well, I'm kind of behind the scenes working on the next reiteration of the TEDx talk. So that's something which I'm quite passionate about as well, because it kind of taps into, we can be great lawyers as introverts just as much as we need both within the profession. So I hope to be able to help the junior lawyers or the lawyers of tomorrow to be able to see that and understand.
So are you looking to take that TEDx talk and expand it as a bit of a keynote, or are you actually looking to do a TEDx talk again?
I'd love to do a second TEDx actually, funnily enough, but hopefully a keynote. I think there's a keynote in there somewhere.
Yeah, I've
just got to find it.
I'm sure you will. I've taken the TEDx that I've done and I expanded it quite a bit to use it as a keynote. So yeah, because I'm sure it's story based, the same as mine was. So it's something. Yeah, you can flesh it out. Gives you more time. Definitely do that. Scott,
I love your TEDx talk, by the way.
Oh,
I have seen it. I watched it, of course. And
even though I sang near the beginning, which almost lost all the viewers straight away. Scott, for anyone that's listening to this thinking, I love what you say, I love what you talk about, I'd love to find out more about you or connect with you. What's the best way for someone to get in touch with you?
The best way is on LinkedIn. So message me, or on there is my contact details as well. So email. and the like. But LinkedIn is the best way to find me.
Fantastic. I will put a link to your LinkedIn profile below the podcast notes. So anyone listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, Audible, or whatever, scroll down. It's in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, look in the description below and you can connect directly with Scott there. Scott, thank you very much for being a guest on the podcast.
Thank you so much, Darren. It's been fantastic, and thank you for inviting me on.